Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Jasleen Kaur, and I'm a trans creator on the Guru Granth Sahib project. We are excited to announce the release of Bhagat Pipa's composition. And before I kind of get into what I've been thinking of the last few months, I thought I would tell you all a little bit about who Bhagat Pipa was. So Bhagat Pipa was a Rajasthani ruler who ended up renouncing his power, his throne, in order to become a Bhagat, which is a devoted one. And he's one of the 15 Bhagats whose compositions are included in the Guru Granth Sahib, although this is the only one of his that's included in the Guru Granth Sahib. It's really important to kind of know where he's coming from, because he had this position of great power, religious and political power, in which he was kind of expected to do the kind of religious and spiritual sort of like gatekeeping that we've talked about, in previous videos, where like the common sort of hegemonical structures of the time required a kind of limited access to divinity and middlemen to go through in order to have connection with the divine, and only certain people were deemed quote unquote like worthy of that connection in the first place. So he's coming out of that context. In this particular composition, he's sharing his personal insight based on his encounter with the formless divine, with IkOankar. And it's set in Rag Dhanasari, which, as you might remember, is a rag that denotes contentment and cheerfulness and conveys like a sense of fulfillment. And in this case, Bhagat Pipa's sense of fulfillment is coming from this realization that the beautiful one sort of resounds within his self, within all of us. And so I thought I would talk about the Daha line, because that's where kind of the main idea of the composition comes. And in the Daha line, Bhagat Pipa says, "I proclaim in the name of Ram, the beautiful one is everything and all pervasive. This realization removes the fear of birth and death." So it's interesting because there are so many religious paradigms in which the body is given such a negative connotation. It's where we have like the dichotomies of like the sacred and the profane, the flesh and the spirit, the body as like something that is only rooted in like bad behavior and vices. There is that kind of dichotomy that's common across traditions. And so for Bhagat Pipa to say that the divine is dwelling within the body is really, really important, and actually like deeply revolutionary, because there's so much we actually do to the body out of fear of its negativity, right? Like of the things that we have heard associated with it that are negative. So we might engage in pilgrimages. We might engage in some kind of ritual cleansing. We might worry about purity and pollution. We might engage in like great disciplines that hurt the body. We might engage in like literally like stigmatas, right? Depending on the tradition, where we're like hurting the body as a form of religious discipline. And so instead, what is emphasized is that the body itself is the place in which the beautiful one dwells, and we don't need to do these external things or treat the body as if it is anything other than a gift, I guess is what I would say. And this is interesting because it's coming off of, and maybe this is just like a funny coincidence of events, but last release was Gorya, and it was all about how the body is this gift and it's so valuable, and it is the vehicle through which we can connect with IkOankar, right? So there is this kind of further emphasis in this composition on the body as part of this kind of all-pervasiveness. And I think that's really beautiful and really important, because there's so much that we do out of like a subconscious sort of like rejection of the body. And I think it's important that Bhagat Pipa says that like this realization of the beautiful one's all pervasiveness is actually what helps us remove the fear of birth and death. Because so much of that fear is tied to ideas about transgressions or sins, ideas about salvation, ideas about punishment and reward. And I think once we understand that the dichotomies that we've created in our own sort of religious traditions or paradigms, that those things are actually illusory, I think then that fear kind of dissipates, because we're not being motivated by an anxiety about what will happen to us after we go. We're understanding the present, the physical, as merely a manifestation of the divine. We're understanding the body, which is physical, as a place in which the divine dwells. And that's like, I mean, that changes everything. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that. I've been thinking about sort of how I live in relationship to my own sort of human body, and how I understand it as a home for the beautiful one. And I think like I do a lot of sort of like logical understanding of that, but there are very few times where I like feel it and experience it. And so I think that's the thing I've been thinking about a lot, is like, how can I continue to pursue that experience? Like, how can I make space in my day to like go into my body in some way, and pursue that relationship, whether that looks like just like doing my bot, whether that looks like closing my eyes for a little bit and sort of talking to the divine. Like, what am I doing to kind of remind myself of that constant presence? Because if I'm not feeling it, it's just that I'm not feeling it. It's not that IkOankar has like gone away somewhere else. So that's what I've been thinking about. And then I also quickly, sorry, this is long, I did want to talk about the word that Bhagat Pipa uses for, which we've translated as like proclaim. I proclaim in the name of Ram. And in the commentary, we talk about kind of the meaning of this word. In the original, it's duhai. And like a lot of things we've done in the past, like it's hard to translate things directly. We miss out on a lot of the layered meaning. So duhai like is about like many things. It can be a prayer for sort of mercy. It can be something that has like an element of like clamoring or crying out. There's like some kind of like frenzy associated with it. There's an element of seeking justice or mercy. There's an element of taking an oath on a deeply respected person. There's an element of awe and reverence and dependence upon some other entity, which in this case would be Ram, the beautiful one. So there's like so many things that we miss out when we just say proclaim. And so I wanted to say that in this video, that there's like some kind of combination of multiple sort of experiences and emotions that's coming out of this one word. And maybe in English, when we think of proclaim, we think of it as like, I don't know, like in an old historical period where there's like still kings, somebody comes out in the middle of a town square and like proclaims something on behalf of the king. That's not what this is. This is like something that is coming deep from the wells of one's own experience and being. And it is so motivated by love and reverence and awe that it feels impossible to not say it. Like it feels like something that has to kind of be called out of you or come out of you as soon as possible. Like it's the excitement of that realization that I think I wanted to emphasize. And so, yeah, I just have been thinking a lot about, yes, what it means to really experience and believe and know the body as the dwelling place of the divine, and also what it would mean to have that experience of knowing and then have it pour out of me with such excitement and clamor and love. Yeah. So that's what I've been thinking about with this composition. I hope you all spend some time with it. As usual, there are word definitions, there are footnotes, there is the translation, transcreation, and the commentary, all for you to kind of spend your sweet time with. And I do hope that you do that and see what gets called out of you. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.